Hello everybody, my name is Jenny and this is Senior Perspective. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about why Robyn Brown tends to put herself forward as the expert on polygamy. Let's talk about it. This is actually kind of a tricky topic to discuss because I feel like there's so many little bits and pieces and parts. But I'm going to try to put as many of them together as I can. This is not all inclusive, but I will have some video clips and some excerpts from the book by the Sister Wives that kind of show examples of Robyn flaunting herself as the expert on polygamy. This is what bothers me. It made me start kind of pulling some stuff together to create this video. And that is, starting from season 1, we have so many examples of Robyn talking in couch interviews, talking to a sister wife, talking in the national media interviews. And it's just the way she presents herself as, well, as you know, in polygamous culture, this is how it is.
Take a seat.
Well, in our faith, this is what we do. This faith is so important. What makes you the expert, Robyn? That's what I want to know. Because the kicker is oftentimes Robyn makes these statements when the other sister wives are sitting with her. Let's step back for a second. Let's start with Christine. Christine has lived in polygamy as a child or an adult her entire life. Her grandfather started this whole sect of the AUB church. They are not only in polygamy, but she's part of blue blood, polygamous royalty, if you will. She knew when she was 16, she wanted to live polygamy because that's what she's seen her family always do. That's what she knows. She has the siblings. She has the other mom. Okay, let's take a look at Mary. When Mary was born, her family were not polygamous. They lived in California. Okay, so Mary was only like 6 months old when her mom decided, I want to live polygamy. And she discussed it with her husband. Her husband wasn't 100% on board. He's like, you want to do what? So it took him 4.5 years to finally agree, get on board, and move to Utah with Mary's mom. So when Mary was 5 years old, she began living the principle. Okay, but in fairness, really, she wasn't living the polygamous lifestyle when she was 5 because she was. Okay, there was another wife, but that wife did not have any children and 2 years later left. So it wasn't until Mary was 10 years old that really the wife that stuck came. And this second wife came from a large polygamous family. So instantly, Mary was thrilled that there was this huge extended polygamous family that was now part of their family. He went on to marry wife number 3, wife number 4, wife number 5. Mary had a total of 27 siblings. She loved this. She referred to herself as a shy kid, and being part of this polygamous family was really helpful for her because it was like instant friends that she had around all the time. This takes us to Janelle. Janelle was raised in the LDS church. It wasn't until she fell in love with Adam Barber that she really started to learn about polygamy. She was fascinated by his family. She ended up marrying him. He converted to her faith. So they were both LDS. But during this time when they were married, this brief time, well, they were married for 2 years, but he left after 6 months. But during this time that they were courting and together, she loved bragging about the fact that her in-laws were polygamous. She thought it was funky and weird and crazy and wonderful, and she kept learning more and more and more about the principle. As it turns out, as I mentioned before, her husband left 6 months into their marriage. Somehow it took 2 full years to get a final divorce. I don't know why. Maybe they wanted it recognized by the LDS church as if they were no longer married. I don't know. They only had 6 months of a marriage. How much could they have accumulated? How much is there to figure out? Just leave with what you came with and go. Anyway, officially they were married for 2 years, but clearly they were separated after he left 6 months in. During this period of time, Janelle became closer and closer and closer with Adam Barber's family. Ironically, this is also Mary's family because her ex-husband is Mary's brother. They never talk about this on the show. Okay. That's a whole separate video. She loves Mary's family, and it's a large family at this time. She's spending a lot of time hanging out with them and is thinking about joining the AUB church and becoming a polygamist. Well, what spurred that on the most is when she eventually started falling in love with Cody Brown. Yes, that was a little stick it to her ex-husband who left after 6 months because she ended up turning around and marrying his sister's husband. Oh, it's so crazy. Okay, so then Janelle marries Cody. She's now part of a polygamous relationship. So she didn't start until she was later in life, right? But by the time Robyn Brown married into the family, Janelle had been with them for 20 years already. 20 years. That's a long time to be living the principle. I feel like even though she had the least amount of experience in polygamy, she was pretty justified in sharing her opinion on how it all worked. She came into the family as a second wife. She had that perspective. She knew what it was like to bring additional women in after her. She knew what it was like to blend in with the one that's already been there. She knows what it's like to really have to work together with somebody who may not even get along with that well and make things work because although they weren't always under one roof, for the most part they were. Her home with Cody and Mary was a trailer, and eventually Christine joined them as well in a 3-bedroom trailer. Very tight quarters.
When Christine and Cody and Mary and I were all together for, at the very beginning, we shared a 3-bedroom mobile home, and it was very squishy.
When they were first married, they were in Washington. They moved to Utah to this Plig house, which is the one that you see on the Sister Wives show when it first aired. They'd been living there, I don't know, I should look it up, about a decade or something like that. These wives are experts on polygamy. And for what Mary or Janelle might not know, they had the expert in Christine right there sharing with them. Cody, too, we could say is fairly new to all of this, just like Janelle, in that he just joined the faith right before he married Mary. Technically, what makes a polygamist? A polygamist is someone who has more than one husband or wife, could go the other way too, at a time. So whether they were under one roof or not, technically they were polygamists based on the definition. One could argue that if you're truly living the principle of polygamy and that you're all one family, one husband, multiple wives, all the kids are siblings, that environment really only occurs under one roof. In all these polygamous compounds and communities that are out there, there are these massive, huge houses. What you see out there, a lot of it not so great in terms of Warren Jeffs and his whole sect. But then you have other families living polygamy a little bit more modernly, like the Brown family, like the Darker family, like the Williams family, if you ever watched My 5 Wives. Okay, let's get to how does Robyn fit into all of this? Why is Robyn the one speaking up and always sharing her opinion on what it's like to be a polygamist? How many years did she live it prior to coming in the family? One could argue none. Did she really ever lived the principle in polygamy? I would argue no. And here's why. The polygamous relationship that she's familiar with, her mom's second husband had another wife. Now, he had this wife and they had a bunch of kids prior to him meeting Alice, which is Robyn's mom, and taking her on as a wife too. Robyn was about 9 to 10 years old at this time. Okay, so we can now say she's familiar with polygamy. Although, let's talk about what this looked like. Robyn has never shared on the show that she had this wonderful polygamous family. She never talks about her mother's sister wife, her second mom, at all. She doesn't mention the benefits of having a second mom. She doesn't mention benefits of her personal life in terms of additional siblings. She shares nothing. In fact, in terms of what she's willing to share with you, you would think she never lived the principle, that she wasn't a polygamist. Except that she keeps talking about my faith, our faith, and how important this principle is, and why we do, and why we sacrifice. And I'm like, what? But because you just joined it, you're this intense? Or because of the TV show, you're this intense? Or because you lived it and you feel passionate about it that you're this intense? This other family that her stepdad had, She calls him dad. Her mother divorced her father when she was young, so she doesn't really have a relationship with her bio dad. So her stepdad is the one she will refer to as dad on the show. Okay, so we do have that. And I think she had a close relationship with him. As close as you can be with your father who lives in another state.
Wait, what?
He didn't even live in the same state as her. Oh my goodness. So he's living in Las Vegas with his wife and his kids. He meets Robyn's mom, wants to marry her. Don't know really any details about the AUB marriage, but we do know that they moved to St. George, Utah. I guess to be closer to Las Vegas. Prior to that, they were in Montana, and we'll go back to that in a second. All right, so now they're in Utah, in St. George, Utah. Not a whole lot of polygamous families there. So in terms of getting familiar with the culture, she was still a kid at the time. Okay, she was 9, but talking to other kids in the faith. I think now there is an AUB church there. I don't believe it was there when she was younger. But I will admit, I don't know that for a fact. But again, we don't hear anything about all these friends that she acquired either. Nothing. Silence. What do we know about the relationship and the other moms? Only that her stepdad lived and worked in Las Vegas with wife number 1 and all his kids. He would come visit Alice and her kids. How often? For the holidays, whatever. Well, not holidays. The holidays were wife number 1. Robyn admits her dad wasn't around for holidays, and even big ones like Christmas wouldn't get celebrated until weeks later, when he had an opportunity to come to Utah and see them.
When I was growing up, my dad actually spent Christmas separate. Like he had one house he was going to for Christmas, and then he had another house. And then sometimes even we wouldn't be able to celebrate Christmas until New Year's because he was at my other mom's house for Christmas.
For all intents and purposes, this is a man that had a wife and a family and would go visit his girlfriend and the kids there.
Sounding very sketchy right now.
It could have started off, for all we know, as wife number 1 having no idea that when he was traveling there, where he owned property, so he would need to travel to keep an eye on his property, she may not have even known for a while because there was nothing legal connecting him to them. It's just the spiritual marriage. If they had one. I'm assuming they did. Just don't have any dates on it because nothing legally documented on these spiritual marriages because they're not recognized as marriages. Which, if we step back, makes us realize that the whole notion of polygamy is kind of crazy because by definition it says a man who has more than one wife. But if you get married legally to another wife, that's bigamy, and that's against the law as well as polygamy. So you can't have a second wife, not legally anyway. So polygamy just means you have one wife by law, and then other wives that you have a spiritual ceremony with. Okay, so it is clearly all religious, not legal. We can have another video going into why is polygamy illegal then. And that's really just because it's been abused over the years. There have been bad men who've done bad things, forcing women into marriages when they were very young and underage, being abusive to the wives and kids, and the government wants to prevent this. So the definition really needs to be redefined. Because when you read it in the dictionary and it says when you have more than one wife, well, now they could function as wives too. You can give an equal portion to all of them in terms of handling responsibilities in the family, which the Brown family did very well of at the beginning of the series we saw. This wasn't Robyn's experience. They weren't all living together communally and sharing responsibilities in terms of wives and kids. Who knows how often Robyn even got to see the other kids? At best, they would have like a distant cousin relationship. At best. And based on Cody Brown's snarky responses when he did the interview on Mormonism Live regarding Robyn's dad's first wife, Cody didn't speak too kindly of her.
But I think that's on the merits of the marriage. And if you didn't have your stuff together or didn't like each other in this life, you're not together in the next life. And I argue that point with Robyn's other mother all the time, because she wants that marriage. She wants to own that man in the next life. And I feel bad for him because I'd be running from her. Hopefully she's not listening. Oh, wait, God, can you guys edit that out? There's people that know that.
This wasn't one big, happy, polygamous family. Not at all. So wait, there was the first husband. No, he didn't have a second wife. He got another wife after he divorced Alice, but they didn't live polygamy. When he was married to Alice, it was just Alice. Okay, I've heard the argument, but she's very familiar with it because she lived in a polygamous community. Robyn grew up in a town called Pinesdale, and it's in Montana, and it's known to be a polygamous community. So I thought, okay, there's this huge town, and therefore she's familiar with all of this. Except that it appears that Robyn left this town at around age 9 or 10, which would have been about 1988, 1989. I took a look at the census because the censuses are done to see how many people live in different places. And I thought, let me see how many thousands of people are there and kind of get an estimate of like what size city or town this would compare to. So the town was continuing to grow. In 1990, the census showed that there were 670 people total in the whole town. Pinesdale only had 670 people in it. I've been to churches that are bigger than that. My kids' graduating class was almost that size. The whole city, all the residents, 670 according to the 1990 census. And that was after she had already left. So just out of curiosity, let me take a look at the previous census. No data. It was so small it wasn't even recognized as its own town and city. So this town that now is known as this big polygamous town, which, by the way, I decided just for the heck of it to continue looking at census, it only got up to like a little over 1,000 members, and now it's been declining again because, polygamy's kind of going out of style. It never was this huge, massive town community. Couldn't have been that influential because Dad wasn't in a polygamous relationship, and Robyn's mom wasn't in a polygamous relationship until Robyn turned about 9 or 10 years old, moved to St. George, and Paul Sullivan helped put them up in a home there. He did eventually end up adopting Robyn and whatever siblings she might have had at the time. She never really lived polygamy until she married Cody Brown. She had distant relatives that lived in another state, which we're not sure if she ever even saw them until she was an adult. They're obviously not very close because she never speaks of them. And she wants to purport that she is an expert on polygamy. Now, when the law changed in Utah and it made it so that polygamy was no longer a felon and it became just a misdemeanor, Robyn said that she was happy about this, but didn't really matter to her because she didn't live in Utah anymore. But her family, who were polygamists, still lived in Utah. What family? Do tell, Robyn. Are you making that up? Are there people you're ashamed of? Can you just throw out a first name?
The law changing doesn't really affect me really because I'm not there in Utah. We're not living in Utah. What happens with it will affect my family because they are living plural marriage. And this could be a huge blessing for them.
I don't know. I don't know what family, but I do know that at Robyn's baby shower, the naughty negligee came from her sister. So I'm thinking she's probably not the one. Oh, there was a period of time when she was married to her first husband. He came from a church that was part of the AUB and practiced polygamy as well. Now, how much she was really involved in that church, I question. Why do I question this? Because David never took on another wife. He didn't want to live the principle. So how much was he really embracing it? How much was he really at church? I don't know. Also, he married his girlfriend who he got pregnant, not a tenant of the faith. So I don't know how much they really embraced Robyn and David / Preston, her ex-husband. You can make your own decisions on your own. I'm just trying to give you as many basic facts and then tell you, in terms of me reading between the lines, this is how I interpret it. What do you think? Let's get a couple examples of Robyn sharing her plethora of knowledge from being a polygamist while married to Cody Brown and never living in the same home with any of the wives. Well, let me just step back. Of course she wanted to live with all of them. It just didn't work out that way, right? Oh no. Actually, when she was just courting Robyn, Janelle offered for her to take half of her house. Now, you remember in Lehigh, Janelle had the upstairs and downstairs. She had the largest portion of the house on the one side. She offered for Robyn to take either the top half or the bottom half, and she would take the other half. Robyn said no. Why did she say no? Because according to her, she wouldn't have an opportunity to really get to know Cody if she was living in the same house with the other wives. What? How would you get to know him any better than to see him interacting with his kids and his wives? That's what you're joining. That's crazy to me. It wasn't like they were moving into a 4-bedroom mobile home. This was a large house, just under 3,000 square feet, that had its own compartments, had its own apartments. She was going to have her own living quarters in it. But she said no. Not really a sign of somebody who's interested in living the polygamous lifestyle, in my opinion.
My thoughts exactly.
You would have thought she would have really wanted to be there because she would need to blend these kids into the family with the rest of the kids. And this would be the perfect opportunity to do it. But instead, she chose to get a house somewhere else. Rent a house down the road for just her and her kids that Cody could come visit. And then on the show would complain about how she felt left out. No joke.
When a new wife joins the family, you go through this process of adjusting. There were some people that were willing to make the adjustments and were welcoming, and then there was a lot that weren't.
She complained on the show about feeling left out because, oh, they're all having so much fun back at the house together, and they do things at the house together, and I'm not there. Oh, the victimhood. The kids aren't blending. They don't seem to accept my kids. Again, you kept them separate. The victimhood. She doesn't feel that close with her sister wives. Again, living separate. The victimhood. Oh, wait. Who's paying for that house?
Not her.
Let me just point out, this woman came with 3 kids in tow, 4 mouths to feed, no job, and she required the family to put her up into a house.
I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
So during the courtship, when she was forcing Cody to leave his wives and his kids to go spend weekends down with her to get familiar with her during the courtship, she could have been living with them this whole time. Understandably, Janelle is probably very concerned, being the one who handles the finances of the family and does the books. Cody really handles the finances, but she does the books. And she knows how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. Janelle was very concerned about the fact that Robyn's going to be coming into their area, being part of their family, and doesn't have a job right now. But of course Robyn's going to get a job, right? You know she told them she's going to get a job because she said this.
In our culture, it's sort of encouraged for wives to go be able to be as independent as they can be because there's so much demand on family resources. So as a sister wife, when you become a part of a plural family, or you know that you're going to have a plural family, you kind of know that there's a lot of your life you're going to be independent.
She never got a job. She never got a job, even though she entered polygamy, and now she has all these other wives that can watch her kids. Apparently at one point she said she was looking. There's so many jobs out there for unskilled labor that's what she is. I get it if you have a college degree in astrology or something and you're having a hard time in Lehigh, Utah finding a job, but McDonald's, shoe store, clothing store, she should have loved that. I think she, at one point after her divorce, worked as like an aide in a nursing home. They're everywhere. I'm sure they had them in Lehigh, Utah. So many jobs. Couldn't find one. And according to Robyn's own words, she knows that women are supposed to be working and supplying income to the family. She didn't do that. I digress. So everyone's talking about Aspen getting ready to get married. They're all very excited, and they're talking about will Aspen live polygamy, because Mitch has come from a family where he has some sisters that are polygamous and he has friends that are polygamous, and so he's very much engulfed in it. Mitch has said, you know what, I'm open to the idea, but basically Aspen is not. And Aspen's like, yeah, no, we're not going to be a polygamous family. Okay? Decision made, it's all over. As Cody's sharing with everybody about how Aspen's already said this decision is over, you can see Robyn get ready to say, well, you don't know. Wait, I've got something to say. Call on me.
Now that Aspen's in love with a guy, I don't think she wants to live plural marriage. She sort of made that clear.
She's got ants in her pants and she wants to say something. She wants to override Aspen, their oldest daughter's mom and dad, who've lived with her for over 20 years, and all the conversations they've had with her, and them saying Aspen is not going to live polygamy. Robyn's like, we don't know. So then Cody's talking some more about how, it's not going to happen. And you can see Robyn starting to twitch in her chair because she wants to say something so bad. Right? She has to give her wealth of knowledge.
I don't think that it's fair for even us to ask them if they're going to be in plural marriage, because they're just starting their own relationship very early.
They won't even know. They won't know until that time doesn't come or comes.
Come again?
They won't know until that time doesn't come or comes.
As a woman who has lived for 40 years in polygamy, not. So what pearl of wisdom does she share with us? Here it is.
That's an agreement you make before you're married.
But you have to have two willing parties. That's the biggest, most important point, is even if one person is more open than the other, or more interested or whatever, you have to have two willing parties or it turns into a nightmare.
Brilliant. If you're going to enter a polygamous relationship, both the parties have to be willing to be in a polygamous relationship, or it's just not going to work out. Aren't we blessed to have her knowledge? Wait, I'll go one further. If two people want to enter a monogamous relationship and they're not in agreement with that, they might have problems. I'm as smart as Robyn.
Look at you.
She gave a complete non-statement statement. Those are just words coming out of her mouth. She's sharing absolutely nothing. But I think she thinks she is.
Moving on.
A big part of living the principle of plural marriage, not just having the title, I am a polygamist, I'm not a polygamist, living it, is a communal living kind of environment. It's a one family idea. It's these kids are siblings. They're not step siblings or distant relative cousins that live across the country. They're siblings. And so part of that is the living all together philosophy. Along with that notion is the idea that each wife has her own specific job and role and responsibility. This was difficult for the OG 3 wives, but they worked through it. They figured it out and they got a well-oiled machine going. They all had their roles and responsibilities. In the Becoming Sister Wives book, this is what Mary writes about after working through their difficulties and explaining where the family was before Robyn came into it. She writes, after 16 years and 13 kids, Cody, Janelle, Christine, and I had figured out who we were as a family and how to make things work. We were a well-oiled unit, and we could see this reflected in our children's happiness. There's another section in the book that I just can't find right now. I'm 99% sure it was Mary who said it, and it was describing the roles of the wives. It was written by either Janelle or Mary, but I'm pretty sure it was Mary. And it said, we all got a groove, we all found our places, everything was working really well. Both Janelle and Mary had jobs that they loved and enjoyed going to. And Christine was the stay-at-home mom, childcare provider and homemaker, and she loved that role. Christine really did. She loved that role so much that when Robyn came into the family and she had younger kids, Christine was hurt by the fact that Robyn didn't allow Christine to nurture her kids. Now, she couldn't teach her kids because the family already agreed we're going to bow to Robyn and put all our kids in public school like her kids were. But Christine could watch her kids. She could babysit the kids. Robyn never allowed this. That's what living the principle of polygamy is. Okay, so you insist on having your own separate space. And eventually they all had their separate spaces due to the circumstances. But Christine's right across the street. And instead of asking Christine for assistance and help when she needed childcare, did she really need childcare? Okay.
The reason I wanted plural marriage was because I like the idea of helping raise my sister-wife's kids. And my sister-wife helped me raise my kids. We haven't been able to do that here. It was really difficult for me when you got a babysitter. Because my first thought was, why aren't we good enough? It's like, why don't you trust me with your kids? Why wouldn't you ask me first? I didn't get it. Mindy is our niece. She has a teaching degree. She's trying to substitute teach and get a job here in Las Vegas. I've had to bring in Mindy because she helps take care of kids while we work. She helps take care of kids while we work.
She helps take care of kids while we work.
She claims she needed childcare for when she was working.
Oh.
She needed a live-in nanny for the hours she put in working. Doing what? I don't know. Because we know my sister-wife's closet, she was constantly getting them all together to give them all jobs because she didn't want to do any work. So I don't know, and it never really got off the ground, and it never really made any money. So why the nanny? I don't understand. Somehow I made it work my whole life, having 2 part-time jobs and watching my kids full-time. I don't know how I did it. I'm incredible. Oh, and then her explanation?
Mindy is our niece. She has a teaching degree. She's trying to substitute teach and get a job here in Las Vegas.
She has a niece who has a degree in education. Okay, the kids were in public school, so we didn't need the education degree, but there's benefits to it. You learn discipline and routines and all that kind of stuff. Used my undergrad in education a lot raising my kids. Now, Christine got some sort of education degree too. I don't know what it was, but I know she's had training and classes in rearing kids, and, 13 of them turned out pretty good. So she got a track record. Well, this wasn't good enough for Robyn because she had a niece who had a degree in education who was in Vegas looking for a job to substitute teach. I call foul. Not true whatsoever. So Las Vegas schools, I know because I've been in the education world my whole life, not known for being the best schools. Any school district that's not good is extremely easy to get a job in. If this girl indeed had a teaching certificate, a degree in education, she would get hired on the spot. On the spot. And all she wanted to do was substitute teach. You don't even need an education degree to substitute teach. You just need a 4-year degree. Every state in the nation is desperate for substitute teachers. That is the one job that is so highly needed. She would not have to spend 2 days looking for a job. So that whole thing is a lie.
Busted.
It's absolutely impossible. There's no way. Okay, I went online to pull a stat because I hate to state something just based on my own personal knowledge without having a fact to put behind it. So I just decided to look it up online. And here in the Las Vegas Review Journal, it says that a report placed the Las Vegas area school district, which encompasses all their public schools, including the Clark County School District and charter schools. This article was ranking 50 of the top big cities. Las Vegas was ranked 49th out of 50, ahead of only Honolulu, Hawaii metropolitan area. Oh, but her niece with a degree in education could not even substitute. Okay, do you see what I'm saying?
She is a liar.
Just trying to come up with something to justify her decision to not use Christine or any of the other sister wives. Mary is free, completely free, and has a huge home. She could take them there. After Solomon was born, Mary went and got a crib and a whole bunch of stuff and had it in her house so she could watch those kids. Never saw it happen. And when Solomon was, I don't know, like around kindergarten age, and Mary wanted to take him on a trip, they said absolutely not. And when Cody said he's never even spent the night outside of the house, she's like, he spent the night at my house once in all those years. One time he spent the night at her house. Robyn did not function as a sister wife to the other sister wives. She did not embody the principle of polygamy. How many other ways can we say it? Christine shares her hurt.
When I was thinking of, don't you want a relationship with me? Don't you want a relationship with a sister wife?
Are you serious right now?
Yes, completely. It broke my heart. You're never gonna need me. Never.
Robyn doesn't get it. She's acting like she's never heard this before.
She's either playing dumb or just is.
So we have this clip from Christine. And this is when Christine points out, in her opinion, now we're talking about Christine, born and raised in the royalty of polygamy, completely surrounded by polygamists at all times, understands the principle better than anybody. From her perspective, this is what she thinks about Robyn living the polygamous lifestyle.
I don't think Robyn's ever lived plural marriage, honestly. Because as soon as she came into the family, even before they got married, I just don't even want to go down the road. It just doesn't help with anything. It just doesn't help with anything.
Don't you wish you would have just kept talking? Don't stop now, Christine. Just tell us what you really feel. But you get what I'm saying? It's not about semantics and definitions. She's not living the principle of polygamy. And she knows it. Let's listen to her own words.
I think we all started feeling like we were single moms in Vegas.
I mean, I remember feeling like a single mom in Vegas, but I thought that was what it was. I thought that's what plural marriage kind of entailed a little bit.
It was the first time I ever really felt like a single mom.
Yeah, me too.
I don't really know what to do with this conversation. I'm realizing I wasn't there and never experienced what it is she's talking about. I don't even know what to say here, and I don't know what to do, and it's really hard to hear.
Because it means I was never part of whatever it is she's talking about they had.
Don't play dumb with me.
So here's the first indication where Robyn let everybody know, oh, the way we're living is not how it's supposed to be. This isn't really the lifestyle of polygamy. This is different. I didn't know. I thought we were all supposed to just be lonely in our own houses.
Yeah, plural marriage can be lonely. In my head, it's an opportunity for you to get a relationship with God.
It wasn't so lonely when they were in the one house. They each had their own apartments, but all the kids were moving back and forth, and the wives were there, and you could stop in and see somebody all the time. There was no loneliness then. The loneliness started when the separation began. It didn't become lonely until you moved to Vegas. When did they move to Vegas? Oh, right after Robyn came in the family, right? You said women in the culture get a job, so get a job. Then you won't be so lonely. Oh, wait, you've got the kids at home. Shoot, what are you going to do about that? Oh, sister wives. Right. That's why you entered this principle.
Right.
Or was it for this whole TLC show? Later on, we have Robyn at the Darker's house. This is in later seasons, where she just comes right out and admits, I'm never going to understand what plural living is all about.
That's what I want, though, because I'm trying to sort of make peace with what's been decided. Yeah. It's a very different thing living together in one home. There's growth there that you can't get if you're living apart. I'm realizing that I will never have this experience.
It's true, Robyn, you're never going to experience it. You've never lived it. And can we all just agree now? Robyn really hasn't lived the polygamous lifestyle. If Christine can say it, we can say it. I mean, everybody's been saying it for years. multiple times I remember her saying, from all the women in the church, what I have learned from women in the church, because I think eventually she started learning, I shouldn't claim I know polygamy because now the word's getting out that I never did. So now I'm going to say everything I've learned from the women in the church, not from her sister wives, of course. Everything I've learned from the women in the church. I don't know which women, I don't know which church, because the Brown family got kicked out of the AUB church after they went public. So that's when she entered polygamy. It's very confusing to me. What women? What women in what church? I don't know.
That's a good question.
Robyn writes in the Becoming Sister Wives book, I had also watched other women in our church who were coming into a family not include the present wives in the reception and celebration of their marriage. All these wives are sharing how they're so jealous that the new wife had this wedding and they didn't get to plan it for her and be a part of it. I doubt it. I don't even think these women even existed. But this was Robyn's justification for having a big shindig of a party and then to include the other sister wives on camera to have content for TLC.
But wait, there is more.
Robyn has more advice on how it is between sister wives. She writes in the book, Becoming Sister Wives, there is a strange phenomenon that happens in our lifestyle. When you're struggling with jealousy and insecurities, you manage to transform your sister wife into some sort of monster. I just want to go on because I find this little section priceless. Now, we all know that Robyn has been trying to teach the sister wives after she came into the marriage for years how to treat Cody, how to speak Cody, right? She gets him. So this is what she wrote. I'm going to start from the beginning again. There is a strange phenomenon that happens in our lifestyle. When you are struggling with jealousy and insecurities, you manage to transform your sister wife into some sort of monster. Is she saying she transforms them into monsters when she's jealous of them? No. She's talking about them to her. That they turn her into the monster that she's not. Because of their jealousy and their insecurities. She goes on. You begin to believe that your sister wife harbors you ill will or intentionally means to harm you. Of course, I'd never do such a thing, Robyn thinks. And from this paranoid perspective, real problems begin to arise. I love it. She has now called them all jealous, insecure, and paranoid. She goes on to say, usually this paranoia springs from an insecurity about your relationship, not with your sister wife, but with your husband.
It's not my fault.
You realize, it's not about the insecurities with us, it's about your insecure relationship with the husband. And of course, she has stated that hers is rock solid, so this is all about the other three wives. And to prove it, her next sentence, she writes, eventually, I discovered that some of my sister wives were often angry with me, not because of something I'd done, but because they felt like Cody loved me more than them.
Again, it's not my fault.
Oh, we can go on and on. Read the book for yourself. This is really an amazing book of all four sister wives throwing digs at each other. It's incredible. I don't know how I've gone this many years without reading it, but I've been enjoying my reads. Oh, by the way, if you're interested, I read it Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live right here on this channel, Senior Perspective.
I know that you think it's social. It's just we are sitting here like killing ourselves basically to live this life.
A slight exaggeration, but only slight.
To live this faith, we believe it. So it's hard for me to sit here with these kids and say, oh, it's no big deal. It is. It's huge for us to live this faith. How can we not sit there and feel stronger about where we're leading our children?
Hear that? We got an expert here.
When you're going to get your hair cut, do you want advice from the person who got the certificate but has never cut anybody's hair or stepped foot in the salon? Or do you want somebody who's there and experienced it and knows what she's talking about? When you're deciding if you want to have kids, Do you talk to somebody who's also been thinking about it but not really doing it? But kind of watch some kids, other people's kids on the side, like they were a babysitter or they were a school teacher. Do you go to them for advice on parenting, or do you go to somebody who lived it, who is a parent, and who understands the ups and downs of it? I'm just saying, Robyn, we don't need your advice anymore. In my humble opinion, you never really lived polygamy. Now, what do all of you think? Am I right? Am I wrong? If you refuse to share and be a part of the rest of the wives' lives, are you living polygamy? Are you a polygamist in name only? Share down below. Can't wait to hear what you have to say. That's all for today. Bye, everybody.
Till next time.
Till next time.